But now we come to this ruler in verse 21 and down to verse 35, and the pace now slows down considerably. The focus now is on this one ruler, Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus Epiphanes is known as the Antichrist of the Old Testament because he was such a wicked person, and he's a picture of the future Antichrist who will rise to power in the world just before the tribulation period. And again, we've mentioned him before in our study of the book of Daniel. So, verse 21, and in his place shall arise a vile person to whom they will not give the honor of royalty, but he shall come in peaceably, and he will seize the kingdom by intrigue. So Antiochus Epiphanes came to power illegitimately by killing his brother. He's not really royalty in that sense. He's not the rightful heir of the throne. He comes to power peaceably, meaning not by war, and he seizes the kingdom by intrigue, by assassinating his brother. Verse 22, with the force of a flood they shall be swept away from before him and be broken, and also the prince of the covenant. And after the league is made with him, he shall act deceitfully. So this guy's deceitful. For he shall come up and become strong with a small number of people. He shall enter peaceably even into the richest places of the province. And he shall do what his fathers have not done, nor his forefathers. He shall disperse among them the plunder, spoil, and riches. And he shall devise his plans against the strongholds, but only for a time. He shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south, again Egypt, with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand, for they shall devise plans against him. Verse 26, yes, those who eat of the portion of his delicacies shall destroy him. His army shall be swept away, and many shall fall down slain. Both these kings' hearts, the king of the north and the king of the south, Syria and Egypt, shall be bent on evil. And they shall speak lies at the same table, but it shall not prosper, for the end will still be at the appointed time. So the king of Egypt and the king of Syria, Antiochus Epiphanes at this point, they're engaged in war. The battles continue between these two kingdoms. And then it mentions in verse 27, they come to the table, meaning they reach an agreement, a peace treaty, which they both quickly broke. Right? Both of them, on both sides of it, were being deceptive in this peace treaty. It says in verse 27, both these kings' hearts shall be bent on evil. Again, this is historical fact. We know about this stuff. And then what happens is they break the peace agreement. They go to battle again. Antiochus Epiphanes was defeated by the Egyptians. And so verse 28, while he's returning to his land with great riches, his heart shall be moved against the holy covenant. And so shall he do damage and return to his own land. So Antiochus Epiphanes, after returning from this battle in Egypt, he's passing through the land of Israel, and he decides to turn his army on Israel. You know, for the past 200 years, their army's been passing through this land and leaving the Israelites alone. But this time, he decides to vent his frustration on the people of Israel. And he attacks them. In verse 29, at the appointed time he shall return and go toward the south. So now he's coming back down through the land of Israel, heading back down to Egypt. But it shall not be like the former or the latter. For ships from Cyprus shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return in rage against the holy covenant and do damage. So he shall return and show regard for those who forsake the holy covenant. Verse 31, and forces shall be mustered by him, and they shall defile the sanctuary fortress. Then they shall take away the daily sacrifices and place there the abomination of desolation. Antiochus Epiphanes, he goes down to invade Egypt again, but he's turned back, it says, by ships from Cyprus. That's the Romans. The Romans come back in again, and they're able to rebuff Antiochus Epiphanes and the Syrian army, and they have to turn back. And this time, on his return home, and he's in a rage, and he attacks the city of Jerusalem. And when he attacks the city of Jerusalem, he slaughters 80,000 Jews in the city. And he enslaves another 80,000 Jews. And he forced the Jews to stop all their sacrifices in the temple. And we've talked about this before and what he did. He stops their sacrifices in their temple in Jerusalem. He erects an idol to Zeus in the Holy of Holies, and he demands that the Jews begin to worship and sacrifice to Zeus. And then he slaughtered a pig on the altar. And he required the Jews to worship Zeus. This statue is the abomination of desolation. He then burned copies of the Scriptures, all the copies he could find. Anyone found with a scroll of Scripture would be put to death. He outlawed the act of circumcision, which, as you know, was the sign of the covenant between the Jewish people and their God, Yahweh. Anyone who practiced circumcision was put to death. A baby found circumcised would be put to death. And so he's just turning all of his anger and wickedness on the Jewish people.